Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the channel. In this video, it's time to look at the George Polley Ford Anglia hot rod. And I might give this old thing a run too. Now, if we're going to talk about national hot rods, we need a national hot rod track. And there we are. Welcome to Foxhall Stadium. It's like Foxhall Stadium, but there's Foxhall here. Okay, so if you're American, you've probably got some questions, unless you saw my video from a couple of years ago on that Duffy Collard car. And they probably are, what's a hot rod oval? Why has Dave made his track into an oval that goes the wrong way round? And why does he keep calling those little race cars hot rods? I have some explaining to do. Okay, 70 years of motorsport history in under 90 seconds. Go. So stock car racing came to the UK at London in the New Cross Speedway Stadium in 1954 and subsequently evolved around Speedway and Greyhound stadiums. So the circuits for stock car racing in the UK have always been flat ovals at around about a quarter mile in length, give or take. The stock cars themselves, as much as it started in America, the original cars that were raced were essentially stock cars, 1930s cars with the rear diffs welded solid. Over a period of time, the formulas evolved. Now, being such small tracks in the UK, most of the formulas that evolved were contact-based motorsports, and a stock car to this day is an armoured saloon car. Bangers are unarmoured, usually scrap cars. And we also have a non-contact formula, very much similar, I suppose, in thinking to American NASCARs, which we call hot rods, because we couldn't call them stock cars because stock cars is the armoured contact sport. So hot rods is the non-contact oval racing formula in the UK and across Northern Europe and in South Africa as well, based on small saloon cars with overly powerful engines for the size of the car. And we race clockwise in the UK because we sit on the right hand side of the car, and racing clockwise makes more sense to us. So then, where to start with George Polley himself? Now, I should start with the fact that when I was a kid, George Polley was my #1 hero racing driver. And I'll get on to why. Now, in the previous Duffy Collard hot rod video that I did in 2023, which is available on this YouTube channel, I talked about the history and the heyday of the sport in the UK with its television coverage and its big audiences and so on. You should probably go back and look at that. I'm not going to go over it again here. However, what emerged from that era were three great names. Mick Duffy Collard, who they've already made a car for, Barry Lee, who they haven't yet, more about that later maybe, and George Polley. There were Northern Irish drivers who were star men as well, but in England it was those three. And George Polley, to this day, is referred to as the driver by those that remember. Because George Polley always won by driving round the outside. He could overtake anybody round the outside of an oval. It didn't matter how good you were. It didn't matter how fast you were going. George Polley could go faster than you round the outside of you. And his driving prowess was legendary, and among oval racing fans to this day it's still his. He is undoubtedly one of the greats. started in hot rods at the end of the 1960s in a Ford Anglia, when all National Hot Rods really were Ford Anglias. It was a very popular car to use. Into the 70s, the Mark I Escort, and then latterly the Mark II Escort became the car to use. But George pretty much stuck with the Ford Anglia throughout. He did have a spell with a Mark II Ford Escort, didn't really get on with it. So in an era when all cars were starting to look the same, George, not only was his driving stand out, but his car was stand out because nobody else had one. And certainly nobody else had one that was painted purple. So George's career in National Hot Rods was very successful and spanned a long period of time, about 20 years. He became British Hot Rod Champion in 1969, again in 70, 73 and 76. In 76 he also became World Hot Rod Champion, and again in 1987 in a totally different car. And he also became National Champion in 1987 as well. So a highly illustrious career. He also took a break for a while and went and did circuit racing and was pretty good at that. He managed to beat rallycross drivers at their own game as well. There's plenty of videos of George Polley overtaking a lot of people in very grainy quality all over YouTube. So we need to talk about this slot car in particular, but it is impossible for me to talk on this channel about this car in isolation, because we also have this car, which is daughter of George, Jo Polley's car that she takes historic mini racing, which, as you will see, in a tribute to her dad, who always raced a purple car with 306 as the number. She registered for number 306, painted the car in a tribute to her dad, and called it George. Now, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch, little George came to a fairly sorry end when he T-boned a Mark I Cortina, and apparently it's bent the chassis and that car is going to be no more. But hopefully there will be another George in the same colours with the same number, because this George was getting really quite sorted out and Jo was getting quite successful with this car. So it's a shame to throw all that knowledge away, but hopefully George 2 will turn up at some point. And the other thing about this is I can't just talk about this one without talking about this one, which is the car that I made from the standard Broadspeed Ford Anglia. There'll be a link to that video in the description of this as well, and then subsequently customised into this car, which was the forerunner to this car, because this is the car that was raced by George Polley in 1976 in the World Hot Rod Final, where he won the World Championship and therefore earned the right for the next 12 months as World Champion to paint the roof of his car gold. So this is the car that followed this car, if you get me. This car was pretty knackered by the time he'd won the world title with it, so it did need a refresh. Now, the other car I have to mention, while I'm mentioning this one, is the Mick Duffy Collard hot rod from a couple of years ago. Now, this honestly represented quite a low point in Scalextric's ability to make a slot car, because everything about this car was pretty much wrong. Wrong wheels, wrong fonts on everything, a couple of bits were upside down. This should be in the middle. It wasn't a good time for Scalextric. They have subsequently got better. And something I wanted to point out that I noticed, although maybe nobody else would, at the time I made the point that this Castrol logo is a Castrol logo that didn't exist when this car in 1980 was racing. What they used was the up to 2023 Castrol livery. Now, Castrol changed their logo very subtly about 6 or 7 times throughout history. And what I have to note, and I have to compliment Scalextric on this time round, is although on camera you probably can't see that it's very different, This is the correct Castrol logo for this car in this year. So nicely done, Scalextric. Good attention to detail. And on the subject of attention to detail, I have to say, the colour, from my memory of seeing it drive around a track, is pretty spot on. It might be a little bit bright, but then my memory might have faded slightly and it might have been dirty. Let's face it, this car did get quite dirty. Those tracks were dusty in those days. As far as I can see, every single decal on this car is in the right place, in the right font. Yes, very, very good job indeed. Quite a lot of detail as well, because the writing on these tiny, tiny little stickers here is incredibly crisp. Things that I don't think are quite right. The wheels. Now, this car ran with yellow wheels. He didn't often run cars with yellow wheels, but he did this one. But I don't ever remember him running them with this style of wheel. I mean, I get it that what they've done at Scalextric is they've used, you know, the standard Ford Anglia wheel and painted it yellow. It is similar to wheels that Polley ran on this car, but they're not quite right. One thing I find a little bit odd, on the original, obviously, mould tool for this car, it has rounded domed headlights. Now, when you go racing with these things, you take the headlights out and you just flatten it off with a piece of plate steel, weld it over. And then they stuck a sticker on. Now, what they've done here is they seem to have taken the headlight mould tool and filled it up with purple plastic instead, and then put this sticker on the front, so it's domed. I can't help thinking it wouldn't have cost that much more just to punch a load of little flat discs out of a piece of plastic and stick them on. But, you know. And same at the back, really. It's a little bit odd because they are still the light bezels. They're not just flattened. One thing I have noted is that in here, this roll cage, I don't know if you can see it, is not attached down properly. I'll probably have to stick that down somehow. It's popped out of where it should be seated in here. But other than that, I mean, it's a good paint job. There's no flaws in it. There's no smudges. Everything's nice and crisp. I think overall, good attention to detail and definitely many steps forward from this. In fact, Scalextric, could you remake this one using today's standards? Because I think it would be good. So I'm not going to do a review of the car running. This is a standard Ford Anglia in essentially every way. They've done a little bit of attention to detail in the fact that when I built this one, I had to make B-pillar posts as well, and they've obviously done some extra mould tooling to make these ones to add in, because on the Broadspeed version, the door pillars are kind of painted onto the glass that fits in here, and obviously on a National Hotrod we don't have the glass. Added the sun visor across, which is good. I haven't double checked whether this car ran with a centre bar as well, like this one did. I should probably check that up, but I'll forgive them because that could be a really awkward thing to do in production. And we are only making a toy car, let's be honest. The other thing I would have done is I'd have taken the standard tailpipe off the back. I mean, I'll probably get a pair of clippers and clip that off myself. But yes, generally a good job. Yes, I'd say, and I'm not sure about the boxing glove hands, but I never am on a Scalextric car. But yeah, overall, I think very, very good job indeed. Big step up from these days. Let's not talk about these days. So here we are, here's the car straight out of the box, on the oval, in the outside lane of course. So it's got the magnet in, everything's exactly as it was, I haven't fiddled with it yet. I'm just going to show you it. So, well, what can I say? It runs quite smoothly. This for me is not hot rod racing. So then, how do we make this more like hot rod racing? Well, certainly in a Ford Anglia, and usually on a flat oval track with a rear wheel drive car, the quickest way to get it round, whether it's dry or wet, is with your foot flat on the floor, slight amount of opposite lock, spinning the wheels up, bit of a power slide. So we need to make this car, that currently handles like it's on rails because it has a massive magnet in the back, a bit more tail happy. So job number one will be to remove the magnet. Job number two, when I did the Broadspeed Anglia a few videos back, link in the description, I sanded all the tread off the tyres and made them definitely smooth and round. So what I'm going to do is, rather than use these nice brand new tyres, I'll pop those off, put these on, give them a little bit of a track sand to make sure they are still true, and I'm going to add some lead. You can get lead from Rob at Swift Slots, www.swift16.com. It's great, this stuff, because you can just chop it up with a pair of scissors. So I shall cut up a couple of bits, stick them either side down here with a bit of blue tack, and we'll see if we can make this car a little bit tail happy. Not too bad, because I'm not changing the Scalextric guide at the moment, but we'll see if we can make it a bit more like hot rod racing. One other thing, whether you're leaving the magnet in or not, whether you normally open a slot car or not, if you've got a Scalextric Ford Anglia, and especially if you're leaving the magnet in, I suggest you lever the motor out a little bit and put some blue tack down either side, or get a glue gun or something. Do something to secure this motor in place, because if you have a heavy crash, these have a habit of not coming right out, but they'll move slightly, and they move enough that when you put it back on the track and pull the trigger, the gear mesh will be all over the place. You'll hear that horrible fizzing noise, and before you know it, there'll be a tooth missing from this gear and it's all ruined. So whatever you do, if you've got a Scalextric Ford Anglia and you stick the motor down, do your slot car a favour. So I shall do all these things, and then we'll go back to the track and see if we've made it a bit more like hot rod racing. Right then, let's give this another go. Yeah, that's a bit more like hot rod racing.
North, south,
So hot rod fans will note that I'm playing the music that they play on your lap of honour when you win a race at a hot rod oval in the UK. And I think it's deserved for Scalextric. Wise choice of livery, because they picked a car where the wheel arches and the rest of the body shell hadn't been drastically modified. They've got everything right. I think the colour's pretty good. Some people might say it's a bit bright, but I think it's good. And I think overall, from the heady days of the mistakes of the Duffy Collard car, they've come a long way, and I can't wait for the Barry Lee car. Now, I did say, if you're going to make these two, you need to make a Barry Lee car. And the question is, which one? Now, Barry drove a Droop Snoot RS2000 hot rod quite a lot throughout his career. But Scalextric don't have one. They are touting a bubble arched Mark 1 at the moment. And they have obviously got the Mark II body shell. It's inconceivable they won't make one. Now, just to move on a little bit more, you see this car? I didn't like it. I took the magnet out, replaced it with lead, and I ran it around the track. And this is proper hot rod racing. So I've got a spare shell from a knackered Mark II Ford Escort, and I think I'm going to make a Barry Lee car out of a Mark II and hope that Scalextric make one out of the Mark I. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it's free and it really does help. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video.